Well, we're back again for part three with Alistair or Al Hill. What'd you like to be called?
I really don't mind. Like people that it's usually only people that know me really well call me Al. So there's maybe like less than definitely less than 10 people that call me Al. So you're one of the few.
Okay. I,
It's all
I am
good.
I'm truly honoured, Al.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All the
It's all
people out
good.
there, it's Alistair.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure, I'm sure after this interview,
But I tend to go by Alistair. I tend to
Alistair
introduce myself
Hill.
as Alistair, but I'm fine with both.
Yeah.
The
So
one I don't do is Ali. That, I mean, very few people call me out, but I prefer Al or Alistair. Yeah.
Ali's very Scottish.
Yeah, well, I actually have the Scottish spelling actually of Alistair. So my granddad was from Glasgow.
I can tell you're a good guy. So the reason I wanted to get you on,
Yeah,
obviously, first of all, the other two videos which I implore people to check out
yeah.
about hypnosis and um, all that is, and also lovely guided self-hypnosis there, which I'll flag up, is me and you've been around the block a bit, especially in NLP and hypnosis and our own change work. And I've I've worked with the great and the good. I'm just saying this, that you're way up there in skill. And I
Sure.
love you. And I'm just saying that. I'm gonna, get you
It's all
get you
good. It's all
blushing.
good.
Get you blushing.
It's fine.
But and I think you're one of those hidden gems until now. And that's why I'm so stoked to have you on. And I'd just like to start asking away. So, first of all, how did you first get into change work, Al?
Like being a miserable bastard.
There you go. Drop mic. I can relate to that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm a miserable bastard, but like I was a very unhappy person for sure. Very unhappy person. I was very stuck, and it's funny. Like I thought I would be like better in a month, right? I was like, yeah, I'm just a bit anxious. I'll just you try a technique or something, or read a book, or go on a course. I don't know what, but I just assumed like it would just pass in a month or something, and it was like project creep, if you know that if you know the phrase, like where you kind of like define a project, then you realize that oh, there's this bit extra to do, and this bit extra to, and this bit extra to. It's just like the scope of the project just expanded across time of like, oh no, actually this is trickier for me than I realized to resolve this because I had particularly tricky stuff to resolve. So I had a brain injury when I was very young. I lived probably this might sound out there what I'm going to say next, but I'm 39. I would say I spent likely 37 years in a state of dissociation and shock with like no access to my body, pretty much, or very limited access to, like felt sense, being able to inhabit my body. Like it took me like 15 years to like train my way out of it. And it's partly why I'm kind of interesting as a thinker and all that kind of stuff. Because like I had like a near death experience when I was like 18 months, 2 years old. And this is the only sense I can make out of my life, by the way. This is a lot of piecing together I had to do. Um, where I was taken like right to the brink of death. And it was an illness called encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain and caused by a variety of things. And so what I didn't know during my childhood, my teenage years, even my 20s, was I had a chronic level of panic that was unresolved. And not just panic, but like a disorientation and confusion that was like a legacy of that brain disoriented state. And so many like ordinary like developmental steps that people would just go on naturally were kind of inhibited in me. So for example, like I I I didn't form a sense of a solid world. There
Hmm.
was not it was not like there was a solid object world around me. I didn't realize it until my early 20s. Right. And in my early 20s I started tapping on things to see if they were real because I eventually concluded that the world was not solid to me. Um, and then it took me over a decade more before my brain could construct a solid world which I could inhabit, which wasn't just like really ephemeral and passed in a split second. So, so yeah, like I had a lot of challenges, and and after my last exam at university, I was like 22. I'd watched a, I'd already loved Darren Brown, and I'd watched this episode where he helps a guy overcome social anxiety and he makes the guy go speed dating. It was just like a one-off episode on the Trick or Treat series, I think. And day after that last exam, I opened up the early NLP books. I bought them off eBay. I got Frogs into Princes and Transformations, and
Cool.
those books changed my life.
Wow.
Like absolutely changed my life because whether those books are accurate or not, right? Those books are like wild in that they are so contrarian and they're so like relentlessly like optimistic but kind of arrogant at the same time. Do you know what I mean? There's this like attitude in those early books of just like the the psychological profession is like stupid and like we've figured it out. Do you know what I mean? Like we've got the code. Like we've got, you know, there's all these stories of like that Bandler, I guess, is sharing. I imagine it's him and doing a lot of it of just like yeah, just like poo-pooing like all these things that he's seen and come across. And I just bought in like uncritically. I just believed it.
Mhm.
I just believed it. I just believed it. You can get rapid change. You can get transformations that happen. If you find the right piece in the system right piece to nudge or to tap, you
Mhm.
can create rapid change. And that has never left me. Like, and it changed my whole life, like reading those books, because it was like I was so burning for an answer. Like having lived that way for so long and been so unhappy and had no idea why. I mean, reading those books didn't give me a reason why, but they potentially gave me a way out. It took me a lot longer before I figured out the why of what was going on for me. Um, but it absolutely lit a fire in me, which never left and still hasn't left. And I love the process and I love the journey. I also was probably a really powerless person as well because I lived in such a state of panic and dissociation and all this kind of stuff. And I think those books sold me the idea that I could be, you know, a magician in some way. Do you know what I mean? It could be this person that's good with words, it could be a hypnotist in some way. And I think with that was like a sense of empowerment that I was
Mhm.
craving as well. So that was like the origins of how I began, you know. So it's yeah, that's my origins.
I love that. I mean, what I took from NLP myself was that just the expectation that change can be rapid. When
Mm,
you, as you say, find that my traits were the synesthesia, the wild synesthesia, that part.
yeah, yeah,
I think when you go into a session with that expectation, things happen faster.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I agree.
if you think it's going to be a year, well, it'll be a year. Or
Mm,
if you
mm,
think it
mm.
could be 3 sessions, the expectation really sets up that frame.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, the thing I discovered was like it's not about having any pressure on it either. Like because at first when I came across this like rapid change thing, I guess there's a sense of like performance or pressuring about it, like have to get the quick change and force it in, all this kind of stuff. And like, but the paradox is the more I slowed down, like really, like the more I was just willing to just go really, really slow, but also with this acute interest and mindset for like trying to sensitively understand the system and find the way it shifts. So it's sort of both things at once. It's like the optimism that there can be this one thing that shifts everything, but then also like just this totally at ease and relaxed. We'll absolutely meet you where you're at. You know, like literally, I'm in no hurry. I mean, I'm in absolutely no hurry. You know, and I'm kind of like always optimistic that there's just this like one little thing that I'll spot, right? And so it's this like mix of the two for me. Um, and yeah, and I found that gets me the most like, or has got me like the best results of that. Um, because I literally have like no expectations when I speak to somebody, like none. Like I just am there to have fun. I just want to get to know the person, and I just have absolute faith that something good's going to happen, and it'll just unfold at the speed that's right, you know. And very often that's like pretty quick, but I mean seriously, I'm in like no hurry at all, and I find that often leads for the quickest results.
So, kind of like fast forwarding ahead,
Yeah.
right, like where you are now. I mean, what would you say are your biggest influences? I'm not talking about, you don't have to name check people, but I mean, because as I say, I've work with a lot of different people. And you just seem to have a, like I say, the way what you just said there, how you slow down, you've got a very different take and stuff. But you get, I know this, I'll say this for you, I know you get great results.
Sure.
And I'm just curious how you go about. So what do you bring to the proverbial party?
I'd say like there are three biggest influences on the way that I work. There are other ones which are important, which are worth noting, but I think I'll just stick to the main three. Um, and I kind of amalgamate them all into my own approach, which I've got a name for as well. So, but the three influences are NLP,
Mhm.
like, that beginning that I had reading those early NLP books, like thinking about like the structure of people's subjective experiences. Um, Hypnosis as well comes into that. So like NLP and hypnosis is the first building block. The second building block is my old mentor Jürgen Rasmussen and his
Yeah.
model, the psychological illusion model. Um, Very influenced by the psychological illusion model. It's very influenced by meditation traditions and this idea that like our mind constructs reality basically, and kind of realizing that there are various illusions that our mind can create. Um, and that was a really important time for me to explore psychological illusion model. For a long while, I was like, that was all I believed in. That was all I kind of did. And then eventually I kind of end up disagreeing with Jurgen on various things in the model, and kind of ended up like finding my way to other things. And then the third piece is just the bit which has been the deepest transformational element for me, which is an approach called NARM, the Neuroaffective Relational Model. And I went massively deep into NARM when I came across it. It's so different in feel to like NLP and hypnosis, for example. It's um,
Can you stop there and just say that one again for people listening? Because this is big. What you
yeah,
call this model? NARM.
NARM, NARM. It stands
Right.
for the Neuroaffective
Mhm.
Relational Model.
Thank you. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah, so it's a model created by this guy called Lawrence Heller that his intention is it's for helping resolve what he calls developmental trauma. It also gets, used a lot for sort of resolving complex trauma. Um, so it's kind of like a trauma model, basically, but it is beautiful, and I love the model, and it has changed my life, like like in a way which nothing else had. Everything's changed my life along the way, but that just really profoundly helped me, and then fed into my work. But me being me, I end up, like eventually critiquing elements of the model and like disagreeing with some parts of it and kind of going like, actually this bit really fits for me and that bit doesn't. And I'm quite a free thinker. And I'm quite a creative person. So I end up, I go deep into these models. I really explore them. Then at some point I'll kind of come out the other end and go, yeah, I'm not like a norm therapist. I can't fit into the box. I kind of blend and create this amalgam. I call my own approach data point coaching
Right.
and like DPC. So data point coaching, the idea of it is that what you're trying to do as a change worker is to create essentially what I call like a new data point, which is like a new reference point. So I can give an example, for example, from like a session we've done recently, right, where I'm working with somebody and they're having a lot of anxiety about their work, and they have this idea of just like work is like a future goal that I have to get to. Like I have a certain salary I've got to get to, certain output I've got to get to, but then like this guy's constantly panicking, right? And I spend the first like 45 minutes, hour just like unpacking, just understanding what's going on for him. And after a while, I realize what's missing, right? And what this guy needs is a new data point, right? A new concept, almost a new reference point. And once he's got that, then it will make the situation look different. So what was the new reference point? I kind of just, I was listening to him and I slow down. I kind of let myself sit with the situation. And I realized that this guy's got like no concept of like inner mastery or inner growth. Is in like he doesn't get the inner side of success. And the inner side of success is like the game you play with yourself. Always be trying to better than yourself than the day before. Right? Like using every experience as like an opportunity to be more at ease in how you feel, or to be more a little bit tolerant of suffering, or build relationships better, or there's this like game you can play with yourself that really enhances success. And like the people that are really successful all play the inner game of mastery, right? They're all doing it. Um, they're pretty much all doing personal growth and personal development. The people that really kind of excel. And he's had no concept. It wasn't even on his radar, right? And so I spend like a good half an hour just like fleshing it out and getting him to understand it. And then what really landed for him was that he had no tolerance of the struggle. Whenever there was struggle, he'd be like, "Oh, this work's not good enough for me. I have to quit and get another job," right? And his whole anxiety was the next job I get is gonna make me struggle. Like I have to enjoy the next job because I could be doing it for the next 40 years, right? And then so I do all this stuff but inner mastery, and the idea of like the tolerating suffering like kind of landed for him. And then he goes to me. This is like the hilarious point in the lesson, which is the new data point landing. This is the moment when the new data point really landed, where he goes to me, he goes, "Whoa, I hope all this means that like I enjoy it when I go in, when I get it." And I just said like, what? I said like, dude, you're not going to enjoy it. And he was like, what? I said like, you've told me every job that you've done in your life, you've not enjoyed it. This next one is not going to be any different. You're not going to enjoy this one either, for God's sakes. Like, just get over it. You're not going to enjoy it. This is the orientation you've got to take. I'm not going to enjoy it, and that's okay. And the more he tolerates the lack of enjoyment, the more he might actually be able to find the fun. The more he might actually start to be able to go, oh yeah, some days are a bit shit, some days are a bit boring, but actually I could vibe with my colleague, or I could get better at doing this thing, or I could learn that part of the job, or like this is the Grand Union Canal that I was saying earlier, right? It's like you can't avoid suffering. Like all you can do is transform it into something more valuable. And and yeah, so that's the thing. So I'm just trying to get this new data point to land. And then when it does, it's like there's a systemic change. Because like now is like, he can't look at work the same way again. And so now he's not getting anxiety because the anxiety was driven by that structure of I must always feel happy at work. Do you know what I mean? And it is like intolerance of the uncomfortableness. So yeah, so that's sort of like, doing all these things. That's sort of like what I've come to do. I don't know how I teach my approach. I don't know if it's teachable, but it's like my own model that I apply that I call data point coaching. Because you've got to be quite, I'm a real systems thinker as well. So, like I make things really simple, like as you know, I do my best to, but like there's a lot of complexity in my thought. Like that I'm a real systems thinker. So, I just that's part of the fun of how you make it as relatable as you can. Yeah,
Huh. Wow, I was like, so,
that's like
so, yeah,
can't even moving on.
you know, so, are you watching Tenders tonight, Al?
What time is it?
What time is it? Right,
Yeah,
okay,
I can
right.
have the gas on. Like,
Yeah, moving on.
nothing more to
Moving
say
on.
about
I did
that.
ask. I did ask. And I was
Just
prepared for
straight at the thing. It was good, isn't it? You're not keeping it too deep. It's good. I like it.
it.
You got to pull us back out, Andy. You got to pull us back out.
Coming up. Coming up.
Yeah.
This is great, though. No, no, but you put it over very well. I mean, one thing I know you're really good at, I mean, because also I like to talk, you you work with a lot of ex-Royal Marines, SPS,
Army, Navy, RAF,
yeah,
police.
detectives, murder
Yeah.
detectives,
Yeah, yeah.
homicide,
All
what do
these
you call
sorts of
murder
people.
detectives?
Oh, and just police, just police in general, whatever they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Whatever
the
area.
reason I'm bringing this up is that you're at the coalface.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you know what the stuff you put to practice is not like, well, oh, I broke my fingernail. You're
No.
talking to people that are, who've seen atrocities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, for
I,
sure.
I'd like to maybe talk maybe about that work and what you bring, to that, how you help those people.
Well, I mean, honestly, it comes from my own journey.
Mm.
Like I remember working with this Royal Marine once, and we were doing coaching for like, I don't know, a few months, maybe like 6 months, 8 months, maybe, like meeting once a month. That was the old format of the charity, once a month. And I remember him saying like he goes I remember him saying like put me in a war zone any day. Like no. Well, no, that's another thing he said. No, sorry. Rewind that. I
Right.
remember him saying that was a different point. I remember him saying this what we're doing right here. This like inner work stuff. He's like, I thought basic training was hard. I thought my grueling marine training was hard. This is way harder. This is way harder. Like, like the path of emotional growth, sure, I work with people, you can get rapid changes, right? But I get those rapid changes by helping people to have some grit, and to like accept that life is hard very often, right? And when you do that, like there's a joy that comes, there's a pleasure to life that comes. And a lot of that is born out of what I said at the beginning. I spent my entire life suffering, basically, like miserably suffering. And I like vowed in my 20s that I was gonna resolve it. And I made a vow to bear all of my pain, and I mean that when I say it. Like it was intolerable and inescapable. And I vowed that I would bear all of it. I would tolerate all of my own pain and suffering. And and in some ways that's never left me, that like deep conviction that I had to form to get through it. And so like we're all in the same boat. Do you know what I mean? Like I've not been to a war zone. Like I had a pretty like uh, you know affluent middle class upbringing, right? But I had this brain injury and it meant that I was in a living hell basically like the whole way through, like and but it just turns out like the inner journey is the inner journey. It's not about what's external, it's about how you relate to these really primal drives that are inside of you. It doesn't matter what's going on outside of you, what's inside is always the product of evolution. It's always the jungle inside of you.
Mm.
No matter what's outside, the jungle is always inside,
Hmm.
right? And so it's always the same thing. It doesn't matter if I'm working with you know, someone who's been in war zones and whatever and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, it's the same skills, whoever I'm talking to. It's you're learning to be at ease with yourself and to with the inner experiences that you've got, right? And that's one thing I've learned too. Like before, I used to be a bit more like, oh gosh, oh, well, this experience, that experience, but like no one's any different from anyone else. Like you just slow down, you unpack whatever it is, like if it's, and also it's about as well, like realizing that life is full of grief.
Hmm.
Life is full of grief. And like in order to live well, you have to encounter a lot of grief because a lot of things are not going to go your way. And the way you come to terms with things is through grief and sadness. Um, and again, that journey is profoundly helpful for helping people in these, that I speak to because they have a lot of grief. Do you know what I mean? About things they've seen and experienced and whatever. So yeah.
I mean, two words that have come up there which I really connected with is grit and
Yeah.
grief.
Yeah.
Because I think getting like change work, therapy, call it what you want, at times some of it is too kind of overly positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, there's not enough resilience, grit to say, you know what, life is shit at times. There's a great saying in Poland. I've got quite an affinity with Poland, and their great saying from the communist time is life is brutal.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I realised what you said there. In my own journey, I've been through a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way I look at it now, I've got that grit that I
Yeah.
can get through stuff. Like my story's more addiction.
Yeah.
But that serves me well now. Another one, grief, because I'd like you to talk more about grief because that's something that is all I know is I've had so much grief in my life. So
Sure.
I like to
Yeah. Beach about grief. I mean, you know, we're born idealistic. We're born hoping that life is going to go away. Like a baby comes into the world, and it instinctively reaches for its parents to be loved.
mm,
Right? We come out idealistic. We come out hopeful, and so we're all at risk of having our hearts broken.
yeah.
Right? Because the world is not going to meet those ideal standards that we come out with.
Mm,
And so part of like coming back to yourself and not tensing against your energy for life, that part of you that wants to open your arms to life, is to metabolize like all the disappointment. You know, I mean, I say all this, but you just kind of metabolize some of that stuff and come to terms with it. And you can't do it all at once. You just you do it opportunistically. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I never set out like I'm going to deal with my grief. Like I never, you know, but like it's like okay, I'm going to work out my feelings about my dad. You know, it's just like well, some part of that I'm going to end up having some grief come out because it's like, you know, it's just the nature of it. Or I'm going to talk about, you know, like an ex partner, you
Yeah.
know, and a relationship didn't go that way. And lo and behold, even though like it's 10 years in the past, when I really slow down with it, gosh, there's still a part of me that was that little hope
Mm.
or a little betrayal that went on or, you know, is actually like unresolved inside of me somehow. And then it's grief that often is the soothing of it, of like acknowledging the letting go of what I desired.
So how do you go about, like say metabolizing it, letting go? I mean, how would you do that with grief? Or you just like you say, you just look for opportunity?
Well, there's a difference between how I would do it for myself and how I do it with others, right?
Okay, how
So,
about others then? I mean, so
so how do it with others? By deeply attuning to them and understanding them. And the biggest tool is wonder and awe,
huh,
right? Is wonder and awe at the human condition, right? For me, it's not about the why, it's about the wonder,
I love that.
right? And it's kind of a frame I'll use at times. Like if like I'll give an example from a session recently, you know, like with a with a veteran who's really struggling, you know, like isolating himself, this kind of stuff. We did a session, it was really good, and he decided to go out into the world. Wow, amazing, big shift. He goes out into the world, he walks down the street, suddenly he's like in chaos because he's walking down the street. And so that's what we talk about in the second session. We like slow down with that. And and I just slow down exactly the sequence of events that happened, right, during that walk down the street, right? And he'd been in this forest and he came out of the forest or a woodland, he came out of the woodland and he goes in this straight street and then this like feeling of being oppressed came up. And he didn't even realize in his own mind at the time that he felt oppressed or he felt it was harsh in some way. He was just aware of immediately wanting to go buy some alcohol. That's what he was aware of. He wasn't aware that he felt like sort of this harsh and oppressive sense. And this is where wonder comes in. And I just slowed down. I said, "Look, look, whoa." I said, "Whoa, let's slow down." I said, "You walked out onto a street. It's just a street. That's all it is. Like you've walked on streets your whole life. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just a street. You walked out onto a street and it felt harsh and oppressive. Like, wow, what's it like to notice that? Right? And the wonder is the beginning of the change because the wonder is starting to relate to that feeling with some curiosity,
Yeah.
right? And he starts jumping to why. Yeah, but I just want to know why. Like, why am I doing that? And I use this frame. I said, you know, I'm gentle. You know, so in my experience, what's more important is the wonder than it is about the why. Because isn't it interesting? It's just a street. And when I brought him back to that space of wonder, he then naturally figured out why. He didn't force it. He naturally went, oh, this is like my first contact in Afghan.
Uh,
Right. And then we talked through that. And then some grief came out, for example. You know, that was later on, you know, in the conversation. But,
yeah.
you know, so how I'd help someone with something is just start in a sense of wonder, you know, and a fascination for who somebody is. You know, like another way wonder could show up with resolving grief, right? Is wow, you really wanted that. You know, you really wanted that person to see you, or you really wanted that person to understand you. How is it just to acknowledge that wanting inside of yourself, right? And then I might reflect back the painful predicament. there was all that wanting to be seen, and you're saying that this person, was angry and would put you down, you know, and you were going to that person to be seen. That sounds tough. That sounds tough, to be wanting to be seen so much and to be going to somebody who treats you that way for it. Right. And just being gentle with the predicament, people can start to metabolize it and go, and they might have pain come up and grief come up, and in the seeing of the circumstance they were in, because the reality is they were just like, it's like the jungle inside. They were just in it. They were just in motion. They weren't able to reflect. They just kept trying to understand, and the argument happened. And they got put down, and they're sad, and then they go back, and it's like you've got to slow down with the dynamic, and wonder and curiosity are what allow people to start to come back to themselves and go, yeah, shit, poor me. Like, what the fuck was I doing? And all of that. So does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. Also, I'm very interested in, because I know, and this is for people watching this, like, and all people I know in my world,
Yeah.
you're the guy with the, I do, I refer people to you with anxiety.
Hmm, hmm.
So I'm just fascinated by your take on anxiety. Discuss.
Anxiety is not, uh, in my view, anxiety is not an emotion.
Hmm.
Anxiety is like an inhibition. So an anxiety is a way of inhibiting the self, because there are energies which feel overwhelming or out of control or would cause damage if I let them come out. So anxiety is like a way of just like jamming up the system to sort of maintain some like integrity or balance. It's like, because if I didn't jam up the system, then something's going to happen. And I don't want that thing to happen.
Right.
So for me, like, yeah, anxiety is just a sign that there's sort of like things to figure out, in terms of like how you're relating to something, how you're dealing with something, how you're making sense out of it. Um, at the core of anxiety is always some problem to be solved. Um, you know, how are you going to relate in this situation? What do you want? Like, what do you want to do? Like, there's always, it's like, an anxiety is always an absence of motion. People aren't moving when they're anxious, in the sense of like they're not progressing with their life. Or at least they might be progressing, but the more paralyzed they are with anxiety, the less they're progressing. You can be progressing with anxiety. You can sort of feel the fear and do it anyway. So it's not all or nothing, but anxiety is like this sort of inhibition or holding back of something. So that's the way I kind of view anxiety.
Great. I mean, how, again, talking to a client, I mean, is there any, what's your approach in dealing with anxiety if somebody comes in if they're really like anxious?
What do you want? I like to start with the question, like, if talking here could be helpful for you, ideally, what would you most hope to get? Right? What do you want? Because their anxiety, let's use this model, is inhibiting themselves. My job is to find a way of them freeing up that energy that's being inhibited. So I'm not interested in getting rid of the anxiety.
Huh.
I'm interested in freeing up what the anxiety is holding back. And once what the anxiety is holding back can be freed up in a way that works for them, then they don't need to be anxious anymore, because the anxiety was just holding back something inside. I'm not saying this is true in all cases, like, because anxiety is a very general term, like, but that's pretty common, that kind of formulation of anxiety. Um, but yeah, but like, what do you want? That's how again. What do you want? And if someone says get rid of anxiety, I say, okay, like, I understand you want to get rid of anxiety in the situation. Like, what do you, I want to get to like something they're trying to name that they want. Like, if you did resolve this and it was really different for you, like it was genuinely different, like, what do you hope for in that? Like, what's the hope if it's, you know, so I'm trying to get someone at some point to say something like, oh, I just want to feel at ease in myself, or, I just want it to be easier to be me, or because I can help with that. I can help it easier to be you. I can help you be more free in yourself. But what I can't help you to do is to never feel stressed again.
Mm.
Right. So I'm trying to get away from that kind of which is fine. It's where people come in. Like, I know what that's like. I never want to feel this ever again. But I want to try and help someone to find like some movement that they want to go towards. Right. So, and if that's totally impossible, I might just map out what's going on, and that'll be a step towards finding that movement. So we might
Right.
like, and then I might share with them like a potential like pathway forward, discuss it with them, and then try and find like something that lands for them where they go, yeah, I just want to be able to tolerate my experience. Like, cool. You know what I mean? Once I get something like that, it's like we're now in like not easy territory, but we're now in a territory that we can move, where there's
Right.
movement around it.
Got
So,
you.
so again, like if anxiety is about inhibition, it's about finding movement. Um, that's where we
Yeah,
begin. Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense to me. But I love your mental p hat on like you're reframing it, rather than and yeah, I love it. I mean, it seems a lot of it seems very Buddhist in my take on it. Like just that kind of like the suffering and the ease and all that.
Well, it's a mix of approaches. So, like, I guess the psychological illusion model very
Hmm.
much has like a quite a Buddhist sort of feel to it. And I did a lot of Vipassana meditation, but the thing which is different, perhaps, from some of those approaches is like the Nam stuff, where because I'm not like a no self guy, really. There can be like the people that get the Buddhist stuff, the noticing of the self and this kind of stuff. Like, I think the self is motion. I think the self is energy wanting to express itself. I think that's who we truly are. It's like it's some movement that we're trying to bring into being. That we want to create, we want to do things, we want to connect with people, we want to, I kind of view that as like the true self, if you like, is the movement that we have in life. And so that's always what we're trying to reconnect people to is
Right.
more of like like I call it the energetic self. Like we're trying to have a deeper sense of, and I wouldn't necessarily say this to anybody. Maybe if they've done like 10 sessions with me and we're in really deep and they kind of get like some of these insights more, I might start bringing this vocabulary. But at first it might just be like being okay being you or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I was going to say like after
Yeah, yeah. I can't go like full on with the concepts like right
all
away.
right, Al. So right,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
right. I need
yeah,
to have a lie down.
yeah. Right, right.
However, that
Yeah,
brings me nicely on.
yeah.
Because before we started this call, I'd like to talk more about where you are now because I know, you're one of the thinkers out there. Like where where you're going. So can you talk more about where you are now? Because you can go as deep as you want.
With what's next? You mean for?
Yeah, because I know that your evolution. I mean, as I said, I've known for 8 years. I see the evolution.
Yeah,
I was excited.
I feel like I've sort of reached a tipping point. Like, of this like in huge amount of personal growth I've done, massive amount of inner work, working with, tons and tons and tons and tons of clients, including like very, very challenging situations and all this kind of stuff, developing my own kind of frameworks and all that kind of stuff. I've kind of reached this tipping point where I've had these like kind of false starts at like putting content out and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of at this point where I just feel like everything's coming together and I'm kind of ready. So yeah, I'm sure, I've got a new website that's going to be, I mean, a website, for bloody 15 years or something, whatever it is. But, like I've got like a new version of it that should be coming out hopefully in the next few weeks or month with like my offerings on it. I call myself a transformative coach, transformative coaching for anxiety, anger, and trauma, and also do personal growth, kind of journeys with people as well. Um, and uh, and then once that's done, I'm just going to start sharing my point of view.
Mm,
Like I've been crafting my point of view for a long time, and I really want to. I'm excited to share it. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited
Uh-huh.
for it to come out. And what will your website be called? It's called.
Alistairhill.guide.
Right, right, right. So I'll put that on the notes as well.
Sure.
Because as I say, in my I've been around the block, and again, I'm gonna just to get you to blush, but you were the rising stars, and I've worked with some because I've said this. There's not many people, the great and the good. A lot of them are trainers.
Hmm.
They don't work with people. You
Right.
see, you're at the coalface.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's why I put a lot more credence what you say because you've tried it.
So
You
that's what I
real.
love though. I love all I do is work one to one. That's all I
Yeah,
do.
same with me. Same with
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Me and you trained together. I mean, we've done
Yeah,
a train course together, and
yeah,
yeah, I like that. But I mean, I think that you've got to keep your tools sharp, and
yeah, yeah.
I like that what you're saying. I just it's real. It's real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's test.
Well, and for me, it's like a constant flow state. I like the challenge. You know, what I mean, I like the work. So um, I am like I used this phrase earlier, a flow junkie. Do you know what I mean? I really enjoy, yeah, like figuring these things out and being in flow, and that's kind of what I'm going to follow. And also it's going to get really deep or big here, but like
It's,
I have an impact I want to make on the planet. I genuinely do. And I feel that there's like a healthiness in my opinions. It might sound like grandiose or big to say that, but like I believe that people I help live better lives afterwards.
mm,
And so I do actually believe that I'm having a positive contribution. And so I do, and I do worry for the planet. And I feel that maybe I'm someone that can help by shifting people's minds in various ways to live lives which can be more in tune with our natural rhythms,
mm,
you know, which includes being in tune with Mother Earth and all those sorts of things. So um, like not an especially political person, it's not a political thing. It's more like I just believe there's some like consciousness raising or, you know, that is helpful to go on. And I see it all the time. The people that I help, their family lives improve, they find a meaningful work, they, follow a sort of truer path. And, like I believe that that's important to do. Um, yeah, so I just believe that's important to do.
cool. Well, this has been fascinating,
Yeah.
and I'll let you come back on the show again if you're up for it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Back it more, because I'm very curious about the flow junkie thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Definitely, and
awesome.
also you're taking, and next time we can go even deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
again, just for people watching this, it's Alistair, it was alistairhill.guide,
Correct, correct.
the
Yeah.
new
So at
website.
the moment, if you go there, it will basically just say, send me an email.
Right.
That's what the website says. It's got my picture, it says basically send me an email because the old site is down at the moment.
Mm.
But in the next few weeks, there'll be a new site up. So
And I'd say to anybody watching this that I've got personal experience of work well as a client and as a colleague, and I have referred people to him. And I know he does great work, especially as you said about trauma, anxiety, but also the the transformative work as well in our journey. And I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hopefully this has resonated with some people. And if do, please check Al out. So for just now, Al, thanks for your time. As always, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, mate.
It's awesome, buddy. Yeah,
Cheers,
yeah.
mate.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's all a pleasure. Oops.